Welcome back. Today we are covering the Las Vegas Raiders in our quest to predict every single game for every single team leading up to the season. This is the beginning of the AFC West, so I've covered the three other AFC divisions already, and we're kicking off the last one with these Raiders, as I said. The Raiders should be slightly improved from last year. Last year, you bring in Geno Smith and Pete Carroll as head coach, so definitely improvements there. However, it is worth noting that they are still about 27th in Super Bowl odds, so they are still not projected to be that great of a team. But we'll get into those projections and see just how we think they will do on the record this year. So, week one on the road in Foxborough. That is a tough game. That is a tough opener here. But honestly, of all the times to get them, I think it might be nice to get the Patriots early in the year. The new coach, both teams have new coaches, but Patriots maybe still figuring it out. However, on the road in that week one, I will take the Patriots in this game. The Raiders, a tough start to the season, going 0-1 with Geno and Pete Carroll. But week two, they are home against the Chargers. A nice little Monday night football game here for the home opener in Vegas. I think the crowd will be going nuts as usual there. And I think it will be enough. The Raiders will pull this one out. I think they get the win and move to 1-1 on the season before they head to Washington to take on the surprising Commanders from last year. And that's a tough one. Raiders on the road this year. It's going to be tough. The Raiders are definitely, I think 27th, I think is where I said their Super Bowl odds are, which I think is about appropriate in their skill level compared to the rest of the teams. And a road game against a pretty solid Washington squad is a tough one and a tough spot. I'll take Washington at home. Then week four, you have the Bears on the road at Vegas. The Bears should, on paper, be better this year. Caleb Williams should continue to improve. You now have the Lions offensive coordinator, the very offensive head coach to hopefully jumpstart that offense. But this will be early in the season on the road for the Bears. So go ahead and give me the Raiders at home to even up their record at 2-2. Still kind of staying in the mix, avoiding falling too far under 500. Week three on the road in Indy. I think Indy could be a little surprisingly good this year. I think I had Indy going 9-8. You can check that video out for that breakdown on my channel. But I think this is a tough one for the Raiders, and I think the Colts win this one. I think that will be a close game, though. I think that definitely will be a close game. So Raiders so far 0-3 on the road, 2-0 at home, interesting enough. Week 6 here at home against the Titans. Titans should be pretty bad this year, starting a rookie quarterback, number 1 overall pick, but the roster is not very great, and I think the Raiders handle this one with a fair amount of ease at home to even up their record once again. They head on the road to the Chiefs. This is one of those that they have given them a tough game a few years now, and in Kansas City nonetheless. And I think they absolutely could win this game. Would not be surprised to see the Raiders beat the Chiefs here. The Chiefs have been playing teams way too close. However, just because I think they can, it doesn't mean I'm going to pick them in this spot. The Chiefs are definitely still the better team. They're at home, and while they have been close the last few years, as the Chiefs tend to do, they pull the games out. So I will take the Chiefs at home in that one. You know what? Now I might want to correct myself there. I do believe the Raiders did win in Kansas City late in the season a couple years ago. So my bad on that one. But still, I will take the Chiefs in that one. But I do expect it to be close. I do expect that one to be close, and would not be surprised to see the Raiders sneak out of there with a win. Week 8, they get a bye week, and then they're home against the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that is tough to get a read on this year as far as how good exactly they will be. But I would take the Raiders at home in that one to even up their record at 4-4. Then they're on the road against Denver. Denver, very, very elite defense. This is a tough spot for them, and this is a Thursday night football game. You have a short week. Might be chilly up there in Denver by that time of year. Not sure. Depends on the weather that day. But I will take the Broncos here in the altitude at home. Raiders drop to 4-5, but still staying around 500, trying to kind of stay in the game. And then they have a Monday night football game against the Dallas Cowboys in Week 11, and this is a tricky one. The Cowboys are a team. I haven't had to pick much so far. I've picked exclusively AFC teams so far. So I'm not exactly sure how I feel about the Cowboys yet this year. The roster feels pretty solid. They have some holes, some defensive holes, maybe a couple offensive line holes. Coaching I hate over there in Dallas. But I will take them to win this game. I think they're just overall better than Vegas, and I think Vegas drops to 4-6. And I'm sorry, Raider fans. I think the Browns sneak one out here. I think this is one of those upset games where a bad team beats a slightly below average team. It happens plenty in the season. And the Browns are going to win a few football games this year. The bad teams, I do hate that. And I've almost wanted to make a video talking about it, how fans, when you're looking at your team's schedule for the future, they see their team as home against a team that they think is worse than theirs, whether it's slightly worse, a lot worse, and they're just like auto win, right? And then if you say they're going to lose it, they lose their minds. And it's like they've never watched football before. It's like you don't realize, hey, man, this happens all the time. I mean, if the better team and home team, like the slightly better team just won every single game, there'd be no point. The worst teams would be going 0-17 just about every year, and they don't. The worst teams still manage to win 3, 4, 5 games even. So just putting it out there for anyone who finds that as a weird pick. Week 13, this probably would be your last gasp to save the season at 4-7. You'd probably have to win out to make the playoffs. Chargers, I think, after beating them early in the year, I don't think they get them this time. I will take the Chargers to knock the Raiders down to 4-8 off of 4 straight losses. Truly a brutal sequence of events if this were to happen. Week 14, though, home. The playoffs are probably out of reach, but not entirely yet. Maybe a last gasp here. You're back home, and I'll take them to narrowly beat the Broncos in what at that point I would expect to be an upset, because I do believe the Broncos will have a pretty good season. Then week 15, the last hopes probably disappear as the Eagles are just too good, especially being on the road for Vegas. That's a loss. And at that point, season's not looking great on the road against the Texans. I think the Texans take that one. Raiders can get that Week 17 win against the Giants. They're definitely better than the Giants, although I don't know, definitely. I think these are two teams very similar, actually, the Giants and the Raiders. And then Week 18, I don't know if the Chiefs will have anything to play for, but I will take the Chiefs on the road. And the Raiders fall to 6-11. And, I'm sure Raiders fans aren't happy to hear that. I think they have a bit of hype coming into this year, but I do hate to break it to them that, 27th odds it's not looking good. You're in a very, very, very tough division, arguably one of the hardest, if not the hardest, in the league. It's a tough spot. The team isn't that good either. So 6-11 feels very appropriate. And frankly, if I'm being completely honest, I think I have them going 2-4 in the division. I think they would be slightly lucky to get those 2 wins in the division. Not to add insult to injury here, but the Broncos, Chargers, and Chiefs are all better teams. They are just better teams than the Raiders. And I think 2-4 in the division would be a win for Vegas. I think they would take that against those teams. So 6-11 on the year. Not the ideal season for them, but, they're building. They know they're not probably going to make the playoffs. They're not going to go on a run this year. I'm sure some fans and people in the locker room think otherwise, but I'm here to tell you that they will not be. So Next up, we'll be looking at the rest of the AFC West, and I think it's going to be a tight race. It's going to be a tight race. I think it's going to come down to the end of the year on who wins it, and I think it'll be a 3-horse race, and we'll get into the first of those 3 teams tomorrow.